What unfolds when a CEO learns that one of his most dedicated employees is living out of a worn-out sedan parked behind the store? Quentin Ames occupied the back seat of a rented Toyota, adjusting a worn blue polo shirt adorned with a name tag. That read Toby. He loathed the pseudonym, yet the ruse was essential. His dark hair now bore the touch of grey thanks to some temporary dye, and his beard was groomed in a manner that aged him by a decade. He gazed through the windshield at store 6, the tiniest of his 9 quick-service establishments. It rested on a serene stretch of road in a modest town where pedestrian activity was scarce, and earnings had declined over the past year. What troubled Quentin more than the figures were the trends: increasing turnover, a handful of customer, complaints reaching corporate, and the recent departure of 2 valued employees without any clear reason. He hadn't visited this specific store since its grand opening 5 years prior. Every one of the 9 locations stemmed from the same brand he had meticulously crafted from the ground up, beginning with a single food truck in a college town, in Key. Those days, he recognized each individual on the payroll. Now, with multiple tiers of oversight established, he hardly recognized the names of the employees at each site. Many of them had never encountered him, and that was precisely the intention behind this covert visit. He lowered the visor and took a final glance at his reflection. He no longer resembled the man who had once captivated investors in a sharp suit. Instead, he appeared to be just another struggling individual in search of employment. The restaurant thrummed with the soft murmur of fryers and the sporadic chime of the front door, creating a lively atmosphere. The environment was tidy, yet the atmosphere seemed unsettling. The manager, a woman in her late 30s with a keen demeanor, and a clipboard perpetually at her side, scarcely acknowledged Quentin as he entered. "You're the new guy?" she inquired, her expression remaining neutral. "Indeed, Toby," Quentin responded, brandishing the documents he had meticulously completed. Via a counterfeit hiring portal he had devised specifically for this occasion. The district manager approved the temporary assistance without a moment's hesitation. "Come with me," she urged. "My name is Gretchen. I don't have the luxury of time for supervision, so please follow instructions accordingly. If you can handle a mop, you'll be valuable." Quentin nodded and trailed behind her to the rear, where a slender, weary young man was busy replenishing the sources. "Where's this one belongs to you today? Demonstrate to him the way to avoid making mistakes." Wes lifted his gaze. He must have been no older than 20. His uniform hung loosely on him, and his sneakers bore holes at the toes. "Hey there," he said, giving a slight smile. "It's manageable, just a considerable amount of tidying up and staying on top of orders. Everything will turn out all right." Quentin dedicated the following hours to closely observing Wes as he navigated the kitchen. The young boy moved swiftly, treated customers with respect, and managed pressure effectively, even with Gretchen's incessant barking in the background. "Wes," I instructed, "make sure to double wrap that order." She broke. "Understood," he responded calmly, quickening his pace. Gretchen was tense throughout the entire shift, lashing out at her colleagues as well. A girl requested a brief 5-minute pause, only to be met with a piercing glare in response. Quentin maintained a low profile, yet he was keenly observing everything around him. He observed how Wes lingered after his shift, diligently wiping down counters that hadn't been requested for cleaning. "There's no need for that," Quentin murmured softly. "I know," Wes replied, his gaze fixed elsewhere. "However, if I don't take action, no one else will step up." By the day's conclusion, the majority of the crew departed swiftly. Quentin lingered, feigning anticipation for a lift. At that moment, he spotted Wes exiting through the back door, a backpack slung over his shoulder, making his way to the distant corner of the parking lot. Intrigued, Quentin trailed behind, treading softly. Wes paused beside a battered silver sedan tucked away behind the building, unmistakably not belonging to a customer. He swung open the back door, retrieved a blanket, and flung his bag onto the front seat. He then ascended into the rear and closed the door behind him. Quentin stood still. He lingered for a few moments, caught in a web of uncertainty about his next move. He approached and rapped on the window. Wes flinched, taken by surprise, and then cracked the window open just a bit. "Toby, what on earth is going on, my friend?" "I choose to remain silent," I simply... Quentin paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. You reside in your vehicle. Wes averted his gaze. Honestly, it's really not a major issue. I'm putting aside some money as I don't have any relatives close by. It's merely a temporary situation until I can secure my own space. Do you have a full-time job? Sure, I request additional hours, but... Gretchen interrupts, stating we need to manage labor expenses. Quentin sensed a weight pressing down in his chest. It wasn't merely guilt, it was a surge of anger. Did you ever share that with anyone, he inquired. What is the reason? So I was let go for being a risk? No, I simply focus on my work. Quentin found himself at a loss for words. He had created this company with the intention of being more than that, to provide opportunities, not to force individuals into living out of their vehicles. He nodded with deliberate slowness. Understood. I'll catch you tomorrow, Wes. Wes offered a subtle nod, yet remained silent. The window ascended once more. Quentin pivoted and strode off, his thoughts whirling in a chaotic dance. He had witnessed more than enough. The following morning he found himself once more in the store, stationed behind the fryer. He observed as Gretchen reprimanded a girl for an error on an order that the girl hadn't even committed. Wes arrived 10 minutes ahead of schedule once more. Gretchen hardly registered his presence. During the lunch rush, the situation deteriorated. A customer expressed dissatisfaction regarding a sandwich that was served cold. Gretchen vocally pointed her finger at Wes, even though it was Quentin who had actually done it. I saw you do it wrong, she shouted. No, that was me, Quentin declared, stepping forward. You are currently in training. That's not the case. I accomplished it. I will take care of it. With a dramatic roll of her eyes, she whispered a few words to herself. In that instant, Quentin resolved that he would no longer remain voiceless. Another day has arrived. In the break room, he took out his phone and messaged the district manager to free up his schedule for that afternoon. He lingered patiently until the final surge subsided. As the store settled into a hush, he summoned everyone to gather at the front. What's happening? Gretchen inquired, her brow furrowed. Quentin removed the name tag. My name is not Toby. My name is Quentin Ames. This place is mine. A hush fell over the room. Wes's complexion drained of color. Gretchen's lips parted just a bit, yet silence lingered in the air. Quentin surveyed his surroundings, a sense of finality in his voice as he declared, I've seen enough. Today marks the beginning of a transformation. Silence enveloped the room. The atmosphere within the restaurant was heavy with uncertainty. Softly crinkled paper wrappers lay scattered in a bin by the prep counter, the sole noise shattering the stillness. Quentin remained motionless, his hands resting at his sides, his gaze unwavering. Is this some kind of prank? Gretchen finally inquired. He glanced in her direction. No, I have been at the helm of this company since its inception. Gretchen surveyed the group, anticipating a challenge from someone. No one did. He expressed his reason for coming here was to uncover the truth of what was truly occurring. At this moment I have accomplished that. Wes took a step back, his expression inscrutable. He averted his gaze, yet his shoulders had tensed up. Quentin inhaled deeply, then spoke to the gathering. I have no intention of causing a stir. I find myself here due to the numerous inconsistencies that have arisen. I've been receiving reports about turnover, customer issues, and complaints from staff. I was done depending on altered versions. He examined each individual intently, allowing the gravity of his statements to linger in the air. Many of you are giving more than what is reasonably expected of you. This task is being complicated unnecessarily by some individuals. Gretchen folded her arms across her chest. If you have concerns about my management style, I would welcome the opportunity to explain my perspective before any judgments are made. You'll have that opportunity, Quentin remarked. However, today was not that day. He shifted his gaze to the rest of the crew. You've navigated challenging situations, likely more than is reasonable. I've noticed that a few of you have been putting in extra hours. Some have not experienced adequate breaks. I take responsibility for that as well. I let my focus slip. He paused. Wes, may I have a moment of your time in the office? Wes paused for a moment, then gave a slight nod. He moved forward, his gaze cast downward. Quentin trailed behind and shut the door softly after them. The workspace felt confined. A weathered filing cabinet lingered in the corner, while a whiteboard, its schedules partially erased, hung askew on the wall. Wes remained on his feet. Quentin inquired if you were concerned about being let go. Wes offered a brief shrug. I might have overshared a bit last night. Your words fell short. I was completely unaware that any of this was happening. There isn't a great deal to express. I'm doing what I can, Quentin said, leaning against the desk as he observed him. How long have you been living in that car? Wes shifted his weight. Few months. What transpired? My father departed from this world last year. I was looking after him. Following his passing, the lease remained under his name, and I struggled to manage it. I navigated through several positions. This was the first one that truly provided me with complete hours. Quentin frowned. Are you still receiving your full hours? Not quite. I once did. Then we were informed that hours needed to be reduced. I gathered a handful from a different spot. Last week, but it's not consistent. Do you want to stay here? Quentin inquired. Wes opened his eyes wide. Absolutely, I appreciate the craft. I simply hope it were different. His voice faded away. What does it matter, such tension? One can never predict when an individual might reach their breaking point. Gretchen has exhibited that behavior since my arrival. Quentin nodded thoughtfully, then stood tall. You have nothing to worry about. Honestly, you're the very reason I arrived here initially. Wes glanced upward, taken aback. I will find a more effective path ahead. There's no need for you to be concerned about your employment. Wes offered a gentle nod before turning his gaze elsewhere. Thank you. Once he departed from the office, Quentin found himself sitting in solitude for a brief moment, gazing intently at the schedule board. The names provided were insufficient to span an entire week. The voids were occupied by arrows and interlaced initials, a jumble of shifts and excessive overlap, where a minimum of 3 individuals should have been present. It validated his suspicions. The shop was perpetually short on staff, and someone had been concealing this with inventive scheduling. By late afternoon, the district manager arrived, a lean, businesslike man named Philip, who had not anticipated the call. He entered the office, clipboard in hand, wearing an expression of fatigue. I didn't expect to see you here in person, Philip remarked. Today I stand with purpose, not merely as a symbol. After dedicating 2 entire shifts on the floor, Philip wore a frown. I had no idea you were operating incognito. That was the intention. Quentin pointed to the schedule board. Philip hesitated, wondering if this was the way staffing had appeared over the past few months. We have been lacking. The hiring process has faced challenges since the winter season. Why didn't anyone inform me it was this severe? I have dispatched the staffing reports. They demonstrated that we were operating efficiently yet consistently. The spreadsheets hold no significance for me. I'm curious if you personally visited this store and observed how operations were being conducted firsthand. Philip adjusted his position. I have made a visit. Everything appears to be constrained, yet manageable. They are not. Gretchen is exerting excessive pressure on the staff, and there seems to be a lack of communication from anyone. They fear the consequences. Philip narrowed his eyes. Are you certain about that? I have no doubt. I witnessed it firsthand. Philip exhaled slowly. And here we have a kid sleeping in his car because he can't afford rent with the hours he's getting. I understand where you're coming from. The circumstances may not be ideal, yet you're well aware of how narrow the margins are at this moment. Each place is maximizing efficiency with minimal resources. That doesn't excuse what's occurring here. There exists a distinction between maintaining a lean approach and exhibiting negligence. Philip remained silent, yet his gaze sharpened. Quentin stated that a comprehensive audit of each store in your region is required. I need the information on staffing, turnover, customer complaints, and manager behavior by the end of the week. That's quite a bit to assemble. Begin at this moment. With a brief nod, Philip exited the room. As the restaurant prepared to close, a serene hush enveloped the space. Quentin requested that Gretchen remain after everyone else had left. She lingered in the office doorway, arms crossed, her jaw set with determination. She stated, "I take it you're intending to let me go." "I am still contemplating my options, for months now I've been managing this place with insufficient staff. I've been filling in the blanks, putting in extra hours, managing children who struggle to arrive punctually. What do you believe I have been doing incorrectly?" "You've been navigating through apprehension. Fear motivates them to take action. No, it leads them to accept mistreatment. That's not true leadership," she scoffed. "It's a challenge to maintain this place when there's no backing from corporate." One might have shared that with another. "I did," Philip was aware. He simply instructed to maintain the line. Quentin observed her intently. "Why was I not informed? I never imagined you had any concern. Your visits have ceased. We hardly ever caught a glimpse of you again. There was always another person arriving, armed with a checklist. Without knowledge, I cannot mend what is broken." Gretchen's gaze darted to the door. "What comes next? You are now on leave, effective immediately with pay during our investigation. Is this for real?" "This isn't meant to be a form of punishment for you. I'm undertaking this to determine if this was an isolated incident or a broader systemic problem." There was no reply from her. Following a prolonged silence, she departed. Quentin lingered, his gaze fixed on the empty wall that loomed behind the desk. He felt no sense of victory. The sky outside had transformed into a rich shade of purple. The parking lot lay mostly vacant, save for the silver sedan stationed in the distant corner. He approached it, rapped on the glass once more. Wes gently pushed the door open. "I'd like you to join me at the main office tomorrow," Quentin stated. "What is the reason?" "I don't want you to be stuck working double shifts just to catch some sleep while sitting up. We will discover a more effective solution." Wes paused for a moment, then offered a slight nod. Quentin began to walk away, yet hesitated. He added one more thing. "No need to stress about the hours for next week. Starting Monday, you'll have full-time work, and I'll take care of your hotel expenses until you're back on your feet." Wes appeared taken aback, yet he chose not to contest it. "Understood." Quentin strolled back to his car, the night air thick, with anticipation and the burden of what lay ahead. As dawn approached, Quentin made his way to the downtown office, arriving well before the sun had risen. The familiar parking space remained designated with his name. It had been weeks since he last put it to use. He entered through the side door, avoiding the main lobby altogether. His arrival took everyone by surprise. The faint buzz of the overhead lights accompanied his steps as he traversed the hallway. At the end of the corridor, he opened the door to a small conference room, leaving it ajar. He set down 2 paper cups of coffee alongside a neatly folded envelope on the table. He settled into his seat and bided his time. Wes made his entrance shortly after 7. With his hoodie fully zipped to the neck, he scanned the surroundings. With quick, darting glances before making his entrance, Quentin rose to his feet. "Did you manage to find the place all right?" Wes gave a brief nod before taking a seat opposite him. "Indeed, I hopped on a couple of buses." Quentin pushed one of the coffees in his direction. "This is not an interview. You are already part of my team. I simply wish to have a conversation." Wes cradled the cup in his hands, yet he refrained from taking a sip. "All right, you've been exceeding expectations in situations that I wouldn't wish upon anyone. You never sought assistance. You remained silent. You consistently made your presence known." Wes cast his gaze upon the table. "I felt as though my options were quite limited." "That's what troubles me," Quentin remarked. "A choice should have been yours to make." He drew the envelope nearer and gave it a single tap. "This document serves as a temporary housing voucher. It will guide you to a location conveniently close to your path. No attachments. Utilize it until you have a solid plan in place." Wes opened and closed his eyes in quick succession. "What is the reason behind your actions?" "My intention in creating this company was never for individuals to experience burnout or to feel confined to the space behind the store. If I allow that to go unchecked, then I become complicit in the issue." He lingered in anticipation, yet Wes remained unresponsive. Quentin emphasized that you are not alone in this, but your presence is certainly acknowledged. That is significant. After a brief pause, Wes grabbed the envelope and slipped it into his backpack. Quentin acknowledged with a single nod. A shift reassignment is also coming your way. For the upcoming weeks, your direct reporting will be to the training team. I'd like to hear your thoughts on how we can prepare new hires, even while you're still on the floor. Wes raised his gaze. Are you asking me to provide training for individuals? I would like your assistance in improving our skills. A gentle rap on the glass broke the silence between them. Philip entered, a folder tucked under one arm. I have the figures, he remarked. Quentin rose to his feet and motioned toward the corridor. Provide us with 5. Wes picked up on the signal and slipped away silently. Philip closed the door softly, then proceeded to open the folder. I gathered the staffing logs, incident reports, and exit interviews from all locations for the past 6 months. Store 6 isn't the sole location facing challenges. Quentin remained silent. Since January, Store 2 has been operating with a reduced staff. Store 5 has been without a full-time shift lead for more than a month now. The manager at Store 8 has changed their team 3 times since March, primarily due to burnout. Quentin reclined, allowing himself a moment of respite. Did any of that reach your attention? Philip paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Indeed, a portion of it, yes. You refined it. I focused on matters that appeared to be pressing. How many individuals slipped away as you focused on your priorities? Philip remained silent. Quentin rose to his feet. Beginning next week, I expect to conduct weekly in-person visits to each store, rather than relying on reports or summaries. Stroll the ground, engage with the team, and I prefer that you don't tackle this on your own. Philip scowled. Are you asking if I should invite someone along? I would like you to take Wes. Philip blinked slowly, his eyes momentarily widening in surprise. He works as a line cook. He possesses a unique perspective that uncovers what often goes unnoticed. That's justification enough. Philip chose not to engage in a dispute. Quentin moved aside and swung open the door to the conference room. Wes lingered in the hallway, perusing a training pamphlet that had been carelessly abandoned. Starting Monday, you'll be on a store rotation. Shadowing Philip, Quentin mentioned. Jot down your thoughts. Take note. Share what is effective and what falls short. Wes appeared uncertain. Are you certain that I meet the qualifications for that? Quentin responded promptly and with confidence. He turned to Philip and said, I am. Both of you can work together to arrange the schedule. I will report his every Friday, not yours. Philip gave a curt nod and turned away. As Quentin made his way back to his office, he navigated through the bustling operations floor. Several of the regional leads were just making their entrance. Marlene noticed him and joined him, matching his pace effortlessly. Are you truly going ahead with the audit? She inquired. Commenced already. Some managers are likely to part ways once this information circulates. In that case, they were the unsuitable managers. She chose not to delve deeper. She hesitated at the threshold of his office. You're altering the framework, not just yet. However, I am altering the standards we accept. Within the confines of his office, Quentin shut the door and took a seat. The inbox on his screen was rapidly accumulating new flagged reports, including some from locations that were previously unfamiliar to him. The stillness had concealed the truth. With its absence, the true image began to emerge clearly. By midweek, Gretchen's leave had evolved into an official suspension. A third-party firm was engaged to conduct interviews with the staff at Store 6. Quentin aimed to ensure that personal biases would not influence the upcoming decisions. He made another trip to the store on Thursday, this time opting for the late shift. A more compact team was in place, with a new shift lead, Marcy, taking charge of the floor. She exuded youthfulness and a sense of ease, while the exchanges among the staff took on a softer, more subdued quality, calm, yet not strained. Orders were processed at a leisurely pace, yet there was no sense of urgency. Silence enveloped the room, with no one raising their voice. Quentin remained silent, choosing not to make his presence known. He observed from a spot by the window, a tablet resting on his lap, scribbling notes in between mouthfuls of a poorly cooked sandwich. Outside, the familiar silver sedan had vanished. A rideshare lingered momentarily before driving off. Wes had moved on from this place. That evening, Quentin made his way back to his office and began crafting a new internal directive. It wasn't a comprehensive overhaul, it marked the beginning. Essential staffing ratios, enforced mandatory breaks, and a stipulation for each general manager to conduct anonymous staff check-ins on a monthly basis. He forwarded it to the executive team accompanied by a brief message. This is mandatory. It's time. The following morning, a response from Marlene arrived. 3 words. Finally, it's about time. He shut the email, reclined in his chair and gazed out the window. Below, the city stirred to life with delivery vans rumbling, early commuters, bustling and morning joggers skillfully navigating through the traffic. Everyone was progressing, and he would too. 2 weeks after Quentin disclosed his identity at Store 6, the transformations had commenced gradually and not without opposition. On the initial morning that Wes stepped into the training center, he found himself uncertain of his direction. The structure loomed larger than he had anticipated, nestled between a modest office complex and a row of fast food establishments that resembled the one he had been employed at. He stood by the front reception desk, waiting patiently for someone to acknowledge him. A tall figure in his early 40s, he sported wire-rimmed glasses and held a tablet tucked under his arm. The man inquired, "Are you Wes?" "Indeed," Philip mentioned, "that you would be arriving. I am Darren, the training coordinator. Today you'll be observing my work closely." Darren was efficient with his time. He guided Wes down a narrow corridor into a compact observation room featuring a one-way mirror that overlooked a simulated kitchen arrangement. 2 new employees stood at the prep station, awkwardly putting on gloves and attempting to remember. The wrap sequence for chicken sandwiches. Wes lingered behind the glass, observing quietly. Darren remarked that impressing anyone wasn't the goal. "You've arrived here because someone believes you possess the perspective we've been lacking. I'm not sure I'm the best fit for that." "Well, you're the one we've chosen." In the reflection, a trainee let a sauce packet slip from their grasp. She let it lie there untouched. The instructor overlooked it. Darren inquired, "You'd definitely say something if that occurred during your shift, right?" "Sure, it's not a major issue, just the details matter to you. If you proceed, it accumulates." Darren jotted down a note. "This is precisely the sort of message we should be receiving." They dedicated the remainder of the day to a series of sessions, including onboarding videos, practical food preparation, and simulated rush orders. Darren consistently sought Wes's insights. Initially, Wes provided brief responses, but by the 3rd session, he began to elaborate more. He remarked during one break that you're setting your expectations too high for the first day. Perfection isn't a requirement for us. It's essential for them to understand the importance of seeking clarification when they encounter uncertainty. By the week's conclusion, Wes had examined 5 distinct training modules, accompanied Philip on 2 store visits, and received an invitation to participate in a feedback session with the operations team. Quentin missed that particular event, yet he took the time to go through the transcript. He consumed every piece of literature. Every report from store visits, each remark from the staff and the observations from the external consultant examining Store 6. The results were expected, yet they were comprehensive, revealing issues such as poorly managed labor schedules, inconsistent application of break policies, and a pervasive culture of silence, fueled by pressure from middle management to achieve productivity targets regardless of the consequences. On a Monday, the executive summary found its way to Quentin's desk. After reading it twice, he shut his laptop and made his way to the open floor workspace, where Marlene was busy reviewing vendor contracts. "Free up your afternoon," he instructed. She raised her gaze. "What's happening?" "We are returning to Store 6. This time it was not an unexpected visit. Marcy, the interim shift lead, had been informed that the CEO and a senior executive would be observing operations, but Quentin was opposed to a contrived walkthrough. He instructed her to execute the shift precisely as outlined. Upon their arrival, the lunch rush was already in full swing. The orders progressed smoothly, and the team appeared to be fully engaged. Marcy orchestrated from the central hub, issuing adjustments with a calm authority. her voice steady and composed. The ambience was far from tranquil. It seemed impossible, especially with the line stretching outside, yet there was an air of calmness about it. It was enduring. Quentin navigated to the rear where the prep station had been shifted a bit to create additional room. That was not included in the floor plan. A change was made without consulting corporate first. He discreetly guided Marcy to the side, away from the hustle of orders. "Did you shift the table?" Indeed, the entire line was experiencing a bottleneck. We thought that by adjusting it, we could accommodate 2 people comfortably instead of just 1. "Who are we?" "Wes and I. It was brought up in one of the walkthroughs." Quentin gave a slight nod. "Wise decision," she paused. "He's not what I anticipated. Not the impression I had of someone from corporate. He doesn't belong to the corporate world. He hails from this place." That afternoon, Quentin summoned the entire team for a meeting. All individuals who had previously been part of the team before the covert visit received an invitation, encompassing those who had moved to different locations since then. Several turned down the offer. The majority arrived. They encountered each other in the break room, a tight space where they stood closely together. Quentin lingered beside the whiteboard, his hands resting at his sides. "I won't keep you long," he started. "It's important that you receive this message firsthand." He took a moment, allowing the atmosphere to calm. "I did not succeed with this store. I allowed mechanisms to take the place of dialogue. I allow reports to convey more than words ever could. The outcome was a culture in which commendable efforts were overlooked, while inappropriate conduct was allowed to persist. No one spoke up. That stops here. We are reimagining our approach to training, assessment, and communication, beginning with you." He cast a look at the door where Wes lingered, arms crossed, absorbing the moment in silence. "A few of you rose to the occasion, even when it wasn't required of you. Some individuals opted for paths that did not align with our proclaimed identity. Accountability will be evident. However, you will also witness transformation." He didn't guarantee additional staff immediately. He was honest that the job wouldn't magically become simple. He detailed concrete measures, including minimum staffing assurances linked to peak times, a feedback system that circumvents district managers, and a compensated peer mentoring initiative. With Wes identified as the primary lead, silence enveloped the room. That was not the intention. Yet individuals remained even after the meeting concluded. A handful of inquiries posed. A couple even provided some suggestions. That was an unprecedented occurrence. As he stepped onto the sidewalk, Quentin found himself alongside Wes. "Are you okay?" Quentin inquired. Wes offered a subtle nod. "Your silence spoke volumes back there. I didn't see a reason to." Quentin observed him intently for a brief moment. "Are you still intending to leave the motel next month?" "Indeed, I have secured a location close to the bus route. Your commute will extend once we begin rotating you through additional stores." Wes arched an eyebrow. "We are expanding the mentor program. Next quarter, you will assist in bringing new hires on board at 3 different locations. Compensated journeys, adaptable timetable." Wes hesitated before responding. "You're not inquiring about this solely due to the car situation, are you?" He finally spoke. "No," Quentin replied. "I'm inquiring because you revealed what we overlooked." Wes gave a brief nod, then turned his gaze toward the street. "Understood. I will take care of it." They lingered in quietude for a brief moment, the hum of vehicles weaving through the silence. "Do you believe that individuals can truly transform?" Wes inquired. "At times it seems all they require is for someone to acknowledge the missteps that occurred." As Wes strolled away, Quentin lingered. At the curb for a moment more. The structure behind him retained its familiar signage, its unchanged colors, and the same menu that had always been there. Yet within, a transformation had begun, not resolved, not complete, but progressing toward a brighter path. He felt no sense of pride, not at this moment. If the changes were to hold, that would come later. In that moment, he simply experienced the here and now, and that sufficed.